Good afternoon, everybody, and good morning to those of you tuning in from Western Australia, and good day to those joining from outside of Australia. Welcome to this joint webinar from Dial Before You Dig and Esri Australia. My name is Gary Johnson, and I've been working with Dial Before You Dig for the last 5 years as part of Esri Australia, as we set a course for the referral service of the future. And joining me today from Dial Before You Dig is the Operations Manager, Graham Allen. And I'll start by handing over to Graham for some opening remarks. Graham.
Thank you, Gary, and good afternoon, good morning, good day, as you say, for anyone, and particularly in WA, having spent some time over there, I don't want to forget that it is morning over there. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us for this webinar as we introduce you to the next generation Dial Before You Dig referral service. After close to 3 years of planning for and ultimately procuring the technology that will future-proof the Dial Before You Dig service, we've reached the point now, and as Gary knows, we're about to embark on everything coming together to ensure that we are ready for go live on July 1, 2021, and it's now less than 12 months away. As we all know, Dial Before You Dig is a critical service that keeps Australia ticking. A recently updated research shows us that it protects approximately 794,000 kilometres of vital utilities, valued at $388 billion. And this next generation referral service will continue to provide best of breed technology for the benefit of asset owners, excavators, locators, and other users. In the last financial year, approximately 2 million inquiries were lodged, generating close to 12 million referral responses from asset owners. And I think that just goes to show how big a service this is. So what lies ahead? Well, this will be a 3-step process as summarized on this slide. Stage 1 is focused on delivering the core referral service over the next 12 months. This is the priority as we seek to go live from July 1 next year. Gary will talk more to this in the following presentation and will outline opportunities for stakeholders such as yourself to contribute ideas and feedback which will help to shape the future of the service in the coming years. Stage 2, this talks about the development of increased upstream and downstream services. This is to the value of both asset owners and users of the service across the damage prevention community. It will follow on from stage 1, and that's obviously important as we need to bed down the core referral service before really embarking on adding anything extra to it. And this is really a case of ensuring that we can provide those extra services across the life cycle of assets. And that includes the design, it includes construction and maintenance, and ultimately often decommissioning or removal of assets. Stage 3 will be implemented with a view to enabling a Dial Before You Dig community. And this will be delivered through what we've also got as the digital platform, which will be the conduit for opportunities for ultimately business to business potentially and business to consumer services, all of which will be focused on a Dial Before You Dig damage prevention community. This will obviously evolve over the coming years, and there will be further opportunities for all stakeholders to contribute ideas and show the value of what can be added to the current service. Can we go to the next slide, please, Gary? I'm not going to talk long to this, but this was essentially an overview of the service blueprint that was developed over 12 months in 2018. And it essentially breaks down the 3 stages of what those services could include. And the rollout and sequence of the timing of it will evolve over time as we discuss how best to deliver on them. And I'm sure that many of you watching will have ideas that can contribute to this, and we do look forward to receiving them. I mean, obviously this presentation will be available afterwards, so you will be able to go in and, you know, look at them individually and ask questions and, you know, contribute ideas on what they might involve and what they might deliver to the damage prevention community. With that, I'm going to hand you back to Gary to take you through the future referral service. Thank you, Gary.
Thanks, Graham. So before we start talking about the future of Dial Before You Dig, I just wanted to cover off on the scope of this first stage that Graham has talked about. This chart describes how Dial Before You Dig's referral service works today. An excavator, locator, designer, that user logs on to 1100.com.au website and sketches out the location of a proposed dig site, providing some information about the dig, and then hits submit. 1100 then determines which of Dial Before You Dig's members might have assets near that dig site and sends your inquiry on as a referral. And that's how it works today. Within the current stage, this first stage, we're focused only on that part, explicitly excluding the response generation bit for members. So we're looking at how do we improve lodging of inquiries and the way that those inquiries get sent off to members and the way the responses come back, but not actually looking at the change to response automation itself. So I just want to make that clear at the start. And you may have noticed on Graham's earlier slide that there was a box called response generation, and that might be a future stage for Dial Before You Dig. We'll touch on later how this affects the way that responses are returned to the inquirer as well. So what does this mean in practice? Many of you will be aware of Esri Australia's Smarter Works portfolio of Dial Before You Dig related applications. And we're launching a new piece of that portfolio, Smarter Works Sentinel, which is branded as Dial Before You Dig. So the existing Dial Before You Dig website and apps will be replaced next year by this whole new next generation Dial Before You Dig. So it's delivering a new web application and a pair of new smartphone apps. Yep, and that does include an Android app. So for all of you out there with Androids, you'll be able to use Dial Before You Dig on your phone as well. It's worth noting that all of the screenshots that we're going to see today are not intended to be indicative of the final application. We're currently in a collaborative design phase, working with key stakeholders from across the industry to shape that user experience. So these are very much just examples. Looking at the improvements you're going to see if you're lodging inquiries through the system. And so the first part is around improved location search, so that it makes it easier to find your dig site. And we've been listening to feedback around this, around the things that make it easier for you to locate where you are and to sketch that out. For example, allowing you to search by DP numbers and lot numbers for marking up dig sites where there's not yet street addresses available or the maps themselves aren't showing anything. We're also working with government and commercial mapping and imagery providers to make sure that you've got really up-to-date maps and really up-to-date imagery within the application, so that when you're sketching out those dig sites, you've got something that's up-to-date and you're not relying on imagery from 3 years ago. Another piece of feedback we've had is the desire to load inquiries in bulk and be able to upload those inquiry boundaries from shape files or files that contain the boundaries of those digs. So one of the things we're wanting to enable is that ability to load a shape file that contains one or more dig sites and have those automatically set up rather than having to redraw the dig site into Dial Before You Dig. And the other set of improvements we've got are being able to set an inquiry to automatically renew. So if you have a job that's going on for several months, you'll be able to set the Dial Before You Dig inquiry to renew every 28 days so that you've always got the latest information available rather than having to go in and do that yourself. And we're also standardizing the subject lines that come back on responses, so that when you're matching up the email responses, you'll know that all of the subject lines look the same and have got the same information in them. Excuse me. From a member perspective then, so for the asset owners, let's look at what's changing there. And the focus has been on giving more valuable access to dial before you dig information for the members, rather than keeping it all locked up. So the first part here is around dashboards and reporting, and having built-in reports for within the application, so that you'll be able to search across all of the referrals that have been sent to you and see those within your own custom dashboard. You'll be able to see in real time what's happening across your area of interest, and you'll also be able to export reports of that information as well. And you're going to be able to export that data of the referrals, of the boundaries, directly out as data files for you to bring into your own systems for further analysis. So we're not relying on you having to build and develop all of this solution yourself. It comes as part of the dial before you dig platform. As well as that, you'll be able to manage your own configuration and self-serve around things like area of interest management. You'll be able to directly upload or sketch your area of interest boundaries. And as you do that, get an indication of the impact in terms of the potential volume of referrals you might receive as you're doing it. You also manage your own contact details, set up how referrals are sent to your organization. And there's also a sandbox mode allowing you to directly test referrals so that you can check that they're going to be processed correctly in your response system, and check that the maps and other content have been generated correctly when you do that. So real focus on self-service rather than you having to fill in forms, contact your DBYD state managers, pass that through to the application support team. You'll be able to manage all that stuff yourself directly within the application. And as a system that's been around for many years, the integration by email approach has also been around for a long time. And sending emails with machine readable attachments to be used within your response solution. But now you'll have the option to directly connect dial before you dig to your solution without any emails through direct calls to APIs, and also able to upload your responses rather than emailing them back. And it's all about trying to reduce complexity and also speed up the return of that information to the inquirer. This is also about ensuring that the future for the referral service is extensible and allow us to add more features in the future by directly integrating dial before you dig to your response systems. It's worth noting that at this stage, at least, the responsibility for responding remains with you as the asset owner and generating those responses. Data ownership remains with you as the asset owner. This isn't about centralizing data. It's not about moving data into the dial before you dig system. And for the 40 odd members who are already using SmarterWorks Automate, we'll automatically be migrating to this pattern, so your responses will be generated even quicker back to the inquirers from next year. But don't worry, you don't have to move to this model straight away. We will be supporting the legacy referral option, which is still based on sending those emails with the machine readable attachments on them, and we'll continue to support that as an option. Based on what response automation solution you do use today, there may need to be minor upgrades or system fixes depending on how they work, but we'll try to have it as similar as format as we've got today. For example, there might be changes to data fields. We're going through a review of which data fields are captured, and that might need small changes in your response automation solution. But absolutely the aim is to minimize that. Also, the configuration that you have today, including your area of interest, will be migrated from the existing solution to the next generation dial before you dig before go live. So that configuration will just be moved across for you. Another change that's coming is the way that emails are returned to the inquirer. They'll now be returned back through dial before you dig rather than directly from member to inquirer. And there's a few reasons for doing this. Firstly, it allows us to really increase standardization of the responses to the inquirer, so that all the subject lines coming back will be formatted the same. It does improve security, and it also allows better tracking of the performance of those responses that have been sent back to inquirers. There's no real change as a member for this. You'll just be sent a different email address to respond to, and Dial Before You Dig will forward that on to the user for you. So the next thing that will be of interest is timeline. So when's all this happening? Well, the first inquiries will be lodged in the new Dial Before You Dig service on the 1st of July next year. That's when we're cutting over from the existing system to the new system. And working backwards from there, asset owners will be given access to the system as well as training starting from the 1st of June next year. And that will allow you to verify your configuration, run tests, and generally get ready for the change. And we call this the mobilization phase. Right now, we're in the ideation phase. This is where we're working with industry representatives from both sides, from the inquirers and from the asset owners, to collaboratively design a solution. And this, a group of stakeholders have been invited to attend workshops at the end of this month and start of September. And you're also able to contribute your ideas on how you think the system should be. We have a website set up to capture your ideas, for you to tell us how the new service should operate, tell us about things that you think are important, tell us about things you don't like about the existing service, and we'll be able to take those ideas and use them to design the solution. Now, not every idea is going to be taken in at the start, but we are definitely going to be monitoring all of those and seeing how we can use them within the next generation Dial Before You Dig. Now I'll just pass back to Graham for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Gary, and I hope that's whetted the appetite of those watching today. We have a good, we do have a good number online, which is very encouraging indeed. As a quick summary, I just want to take this opportunity to remind everyone of how we're going to go about delivering this over the next 3 to 5 years. That importance of the 3-stage process, and for the next 12 months, it is about making sure that everything that you've spoken about, Gary, is ready to go on July 1 next year. I mean, even from the interest online today and some of the questions that have come in, and it's quite clear that people are very interested in seeing how and what they can do to add value to the current service and move it forward. So that's very good news. And it is your service for everyone out there watching this now and listening to us talk about it. It is your service. So with keep those ideas coming in. And whilst, as Gary said, we won't be able to get them all done in day one because we do need to get the service up and running. They will be considered and they are being reviewed by myself and by the team. As stated by our national CEO, Stuart Burdick, when he announced our national referral service last month, our vision, as is your vision, I'm sure, is for zero harm and zero damage. And that sits at the heart of the business's decision, going on for 3 years ago now, when the board decided to take this initiative underway, to pave a new innovative path forward for the Dial Before You Dig service. And this is really the start of that journey in earnest. It is an exciting time for everyone within the business, and I'm hoping that's generated a bit of excitement out there as well. And I'm sure that I speak for all Dial Before You Dig directors and staff when I say that we are excited to be bringing this next generation referral service to you, because you are the key stakeholders. We do this, and not only that, it's the community at large. As I said at the beginning, this service seeks to protect lots and lots of very expensive critical assets across the nation, and without it, I think we'd be in a spot of bother. It is a world-leading service, and we're about to, make it even more world-leading. And I'm sure there's a few eyes around the world watching it. And with that, Gary, I think we're going to take a few questions because there are a few online, so which is good news. I don't think we're going to be able to answer them all today because they'll all be captured. Yep.
Yeah, so we do have a fair few questions coming through. If you do want to ask a question, then please on the GoToMeeting control panel, go to the questions, type in your questions, and be sure to press send so that we receive them. Question here from Alan West asking, and also we've got this question a couple of times, how long will the legacy referral system continue to be supported and continue to be available? We haven't set any end date for that. The idea is that we would hope that people come across to the new way, but we're not going to set an end date on the existing legacy system, and that will continue to be supported and continue to be supported as long as it needs to be. So don't worry about that one. Also a question about from Leanne about better ways to identify rural requests. And this is definitely something we're interested in. We're looking at, first of all, improved and more current imagery, the ability to search in new ways, for example, by lot numbers, by searching by coordinates, and by loading your boundaries in from other systems. So we're hoping to cover off on a lot of that. But if you've got more ideas for how that can be improved, please do leave that at nextgendbyd.com.au. Another question here from Lisa asking about whether we will be supporting GDA 2020 and what members are going to be doing with that. So two parts to that. So first of all, the DBYD Next Gen system will absolutely be based around GDA 2020. In terms of what members are doing, members are still responsible for sending those responses, and it is their responsibility to do that. We hope to be able to continue to educate them and work with them around moving to GDA 2020, but it is obviously down to each of those 850 members to make that change. A question from David asking, when will we see the designs for the new API and the new way of integrating? And that will come out in the first quarter of next year, so sometime before March 2021, those new designs will be available for you to start planning how you want to work with them.
Gary, there was one question asking if the referral service will remain free. I can't remember who it was from, but absolutely that is the intention. The core referral service will remain a free service. You know, I think we spoke about some of those value-added services in the future, and they may be subject to commercial terms, but right now, absolutely, the core referral service will be free and remain so.
Yep. And there's a few questions coming through about impacts on existing automated response solutions. As we said in the presentation, our aim is through the legacy mode to really minimize the impact on those systems. We are, though, taking a whole review of the data that gets captured, what fields are captured, whether it's still the right information, and so there may be some small changes there. So in answer to the questions about the impact on people's solutions, whether they're Pelican, MyPella, or their own, you know, we're trying to minimize that, and the information about any changes will be published in plenty of time for the changeover in the first quarter of next year. And for those asking about SmarterWorks customers, there won't be any change there. Because the new Dial Before You Dig system is part of the SmarterWorks portfolio, it will just work, and we guarantee that. So, also got a question about whether the presentation were recorded and made available for other attendees. Absolutely. Graham, is that going on the 1100 website?
Correct. That's right, Gary.
So,
on 00.com.au, it will be made available.
Yep. So within the next couple of days, you should be able to find that there. And yeah, so there's plenty of other questions that what we might do with those are a bit more specific. We'll try and respond to you directly by email as with each of those questions that have been asked. So thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to hear about next generation Dial Before You Dig, and we're really excited to bring this to you, and we'll continue to provide you with updates over the coming months on the changes that are happening. So thank you.